Hey guys, Dov here with some more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer action. Today I'm going to be going through my games from the recent faction war hosted by Turin. I played the Empire, of course, so all Empire games. I want to talk through kind of the thinking of my builds, the strategy involved and everything. So yeah, as we get started here, you can see, if you haven't watched, by the way, the live cast obviously on Turin's channel, you should, but we've got Volkmar the Grim and a steam tank here. The thinking is both of these unbreakable chariots are very hard to kill. The Volkmar and the steam tank both have some good utility as well. Volkmar can clear out infantry and some light cavalry, whereas obviously the steam tank's main gun is very good against cavalry. Gotrek provides us some anti-large AP to help protect both of them, a healer for the steam tank. We've got a front line of veteran spears, some gold chevron, single gold chevron spears, Sigmar's Sons, and a basic group of spears as well. A single group of demigryph knights to give us some kind of anti-large, not necessarily anti-large, they are the lance variant because they have higher melee defense and charge, but still some kind of armor piercing. And of course, it's my build, so I've got 3 pistoliers. Up against Random Nix, who has taken a quad trebuchet build. He's got 2 units of questing knights, one of them is the Companions of Cornell, a couple peasant bowmen, and some men-at-arms with battle pilgrims, as well as Lewin up in the air, plus a damsel or a beast to summon manticores. The quad trebuchet is something that I had expected here. It's somewhat of a strange build in general, but actually in this matchup it can be quite effective, and having seen Random Nix play a handful of times before, using this build or similar types of builds, I kind of somewhat expected something like this. Now the steam tank, obviously the fleet trebuchets are not necessarily anti-large type artillery, so we can hopefully make it pay off quite well, but I'm going to come in with a nice banishment, just immediately start to break up this line of battle pilgrims here. Lewin dives in, and the Companions of Cornell are also going to rush in, and you can see that both chariots are going to try and disengage here, the steam tank and Volkmar both, but we've got some state troops rushing in for support here. Those spearmen with shields, veteran Gotrek comes in, starts cleaving up these knights. Yeah, a little bit of an unchivalrous situation there, but bombardment being dropped. We also throw that Grand Hammer of Sigmar, juiced up steam tank, and Volkmar, Gotrek also juiced up to 94 melee attack. Of course, a Sword of Couronne giving a melee defense debuff there. The steam tank going to be down to 0 melee defense, so it is taking a significant amount of damage here, but we can continue to provide that damage resistance with Volkmar, some healing, and here comes a critical charge with the demigryph knights countercharging in here, targeted specifically on the Companions of Cornell. I'm trying to take them out as efficiently as I can here. We were able to kind of come in and screen out initially, and meanwhile out in the periphery here, this other unit of questing knights is coming out to start to deal with some of my pistoliers. I'm mismicroing them a little bit, but some of them are going to be able to stay alive and hopefully help push up on these trebuchets in the late game. My light cavalry micro is not super on point here. Could have potentially pushed up and started to push on some of these archers and so on, but as it is, I'm focusing a lot more on this fight right here because it's a lot more important, a lot more value tied up right here. The Summon Manticore comes down, drops a rear charge. That is going to terrify away a bunch of the Spearmen, the Demigryph Knights, the Jade Wizard also turning tail and running. But the Jade Wizard and the Demigryph Knights are healthy enough that I should be able to get them back, and since the Manticore gets enraged, I believe, here, nope, looks like it's just left targeting the steam tank. Gotrek's going to come in, and with Volkmar hopefully terrifying away those battle pilgrims, then actually, you know, let's see, Lewin came in and took a bunch of damage. I believe Beloved Son of Bretonnia is actually active right now map-wide, so terror will no longer be a factor for Bretonnia as long as Lewin stays low on HP. Regrowth on those Demigryph Knights, you can see as those Trebuchet rocks hit them, they will take out unit models, which is pretty critical here, but yeah, Lewin being so low health is obviously bad. He came in and took a ton of damage from Gotrek in that main engagement there, from that Hammer Sigmar on Gotrek, but now he's going to come back, try and finish off this Jade Wizard here. I've got the Demigryphs on station to try and protect. The danger close Trebuchet rocks flying in, though. Also pounding in on those Sigmar's Sons. We've got some Spearmen here who can support as well. Thankfully, we've just about dealt with the Summon Manticores. I believe the one's pretty much done for already. This is probably the second one. Yeah, the Trebuchets still have quite a bit of ammo, and all of their units still online. I do have a unit of Pistoliers out here that I've forgotten about. can then swing them up and get on these guys in just a moment when I realize I still have them, but for the time being, we're kind of holding out in this pocket. Still, though, the Steam Tank and Volkmar are going to be very hard for Bretonnia to kill, and again, that's kind of the thinking here, is I have two unbreakable terror chariots that are both good against cav and infantry, and are just generally hard for Bretonnia to take out, right? You can see both the Questing Knights and Companions pretty much done for at this point. Likewise, Lewin's getting very low, came in to try and take out the Jade Wizard one more time. The Demigryph Knights are still sticking around, maybe? Nope, looks like they get terrified away. Fortunately, that Hammer of Sigmar not quite enough, but here comes Gotrek. Looks like he's going to chase King Lewin back up in the air, and you can see I switched to the main gun here on the Steam Tank. I actually hadn't been using the ammo on it at all on the main gun. Had just been using it only in melee. So we're going to switch now. Basically, just keep the pressure up on Lewin, keep that timer up. Since Random Nix is not targeting the Steam Tank with anything that can really take it out at this point. I mean, if all the Trebuchets started to focus on it, they could maybe take it out here. But again, Lewin dives down to try and take out the Jade Wizard one more time. Demigryph Knights are able to get a counter charge, and again, these guys with their 60 charge bonus here, it's very critical that you keep that active as much as possible. And I'm also trying to dodge the Trebuchet shots if I can, get a little bit of a cycle charge there with the support of those spearmen, but Lewin is going to get back up in the air. So, pretty close situation, but swinging and a miss there from the Steam Tank. Just kind of chilling here with a few of these Sigmar Sons. I have a handful of units trying to push up here. You can see the Pistoliers did come in. They managed to disrupt one field Trebuchet. Volkmar is likewise doing his best, but at his healing cap, the Damsel's going to come in and start to beat down the Volkswagen here. Unfortunately, yeah, he's not quite at his healing cap, but basically just about at his healing cap at this point. We're going to try and get some of these other units up into a supporting position now that there's pretty much no Bretonians left on the battlefield, on this side of the battlefield, I should say. Lewin's still got a little bit there, but a nice hit there from the Steam Tank's cannon. Did a good amount of damage, but now Random Nix is going to start to focus fire with the Trebuchets on the Steam Tank, and with 4 of them, especially at this close of range, they are going to be accurate enough to start to get pretty consistent hits in just a moment. So, yeah, Lewin dives down to try and disrupt those spears to try and keep them from getting on the Trebuchets, and now here comes the focus fire. We'll keep it nice and close in cinematic mode. On this Steam Tank, you can see there got some peasant spears in here, fighting the Sigmar Sons in a very pitched engagement. Oh, that beautiful side-shotting steam gun there. Volkmar runs through with his chariot, just running them over directly with his wheel. Man, he's fine. He literally just got ran over 100% by those wheels. And there he goes again. But, yeah, the anti-tank rocks, of course, the Trebuchets switching to their specialized... no, not really. But the anti-tank rocks are going to be... with enough volume of fire, they'll score enough hits to probably finish this thing off. I've got, what, 2,500 HP left, which is quite a bit. Keep in mind, these guys do a pretty decent amount of armor-piercing damage per volley, and that one that I had disrupted was able to get back on with all 3, so what is that, 12 Trebuchets all firing in focus fire? The Steam Tank's a big enough target that it's going to get hit, and man, I can only imagine how loud that would be inside. Just massive rocks hitting this metal box that you're sitting inside. So yeah, we're going to get maybe 1 or 2 more shots off against Lewin here. Let's see. A couple of rocks making solid contact there. Oh, and there she blows. Yep. Anti-tank Trebuchets confirmed. That being said, the balance power far enough in my favor that it's pretty much not going to matter at this point. Lewin, yeah, the beloved son of Bretonnia is still active, but I don't think he is regenerating somewhat. But still, with this low of HP, I mean, Gottrek's still so healthy. There's still a lot of HP on Volkmar as well. We're starting to terrify away the chariot, or the chariots, the Trebuchets. Finally, he tries to dive the Jade Wizard here, but Volkmar going to roll over with his chariot, bop Lewin once on the back of the head, and then the friendly fire from Lewin, I believe, is actually what's going to do it. Yeah, I mean, I think he actually got hit by one of those Trebuchet rocks, and that's what finished his leadership off, or at least they were close enough to him to make him count as being attacked by artillery. Obviously, with him gone, that's going to be it. Gotrek comes over to manually dismantle the anti-tank Trebuchets. because, you know, that's apparently how things are done, and I do claim victory in round 1 against Random Nicks. Yeah, unfortunate that the Empire had to fight Bretonia in round 1, but I'll be sure to carry the banner of men far into the future, or the past, I guess, because this already happened. But anyway, 163 kills on Volkmar, pretty good stuff. 45 on Gotrek, as he was also able to do a ton of damage to Lewin, helping to protect the steam tank, which itself got 61 kills in an XP chevron. 27 kills on a chevron for the Demigryph Knights. Not a ton of kill totals, but considering they like most of those 27 are probably companions of Kunel, that is pretty impressive stuff. 48 for the Sigmar Sons, all the veteran spears doing decently as well. 52 on this unit of Pistoliers, also not too bad. On Random Nick's side, I mean, considering the Trebuchets were shooting a tank for a good amount of time, still a decent amount of kills spread around there. Yeah, ultimately just not quite able to do enough damage. Still, it was a very, very close game. Yeah, I've got a few more to get to, so let's just, yeah, we'll make this a multicast of all the games that I played today, so let's just get straight to it. For round 2, I was up against Vampire Coast, Chosen of the Norns, who is a Chinese player. And yeah, I've got things paused here because, as you can see from the Free Company already popping off, we've gone for a mass Vanguard up against Coast. This is a risky thing to do. Mass Vanguard's pretty much always a risky thing to do, but against the Coast, it can potentially be a surprise situation where you can pick off a few units more or less for free. That was kind of my thinking here, especially given that I don't... there can somewhat be regional metas in different language-speaking tournaments. From what I understand, I'm not super familiar with, like, let's say the Chinese meta, for example, that Chosen of the Norns would be familiar with. So if I take a build that may be unexpected to basically everyone, I would say Vanguard deployment is almost universally surprising in certain situations. It could definitely catch him off guard and just force me, not necessarily force me, but force him into a situation that's advantageous to me. So to that effect, we've got 5 Free Company here, including the Sterling's Revenge, 5 Huntsmen as well, Marcus Wolfhart in the lead, Zentler's Reichsguard with 2 more Empire Knights in the back, plus a Fire Wizard. For Chosen's Vampire Coast build here, he's got 3 Scurvy Dogs, pretty aggressively vanguarded forward, and he himself has brought a double crab rush build here. So this Vanguard situation, normally, you know, you Vanguard this close and end up having a giant shootout with Vampire Coast, but instead I'm going to have to defend against this uphill rush. But on this map specifically, this Vanguard also gives me the advantage of having this uphill scenario. And for those of you guys who don't know, being uphill does give you an advantage in a couple of aspects. Number 1 being charge bonus, and number 2, I believe, is actually missile damage. Shooting downhill, I want to say, gives you a slight damage buff. So it is an advantageous situation to be in for me, certainly. Don't have the most AP to deal with the 2 giant enemy crabs, but let's see how we do here. We've got them, some depth guard. Yeah, the 4 hounds, 3 hounds, 3 bats, immediately just going to get chewed up. Noctilus leading the way, a mortar with a single zombie polearm. And then, yeah, the 2 depth guard immediately going to be getting in, so not a lot to it. The Zentler's Reichsguard going to come in and help support against these hounds. Try and bail out the Sterling's Revenge if we can, because they do have proper AP, you know, values on their pistols. But as it is, a net gets dropped here. Doesn't catch all the units that I wanted it to, and we're still not able to get super efficient focus fire. Likewise, Marcus is going to mostly miss there. He actually took out like 1 or 2 depth guard with that focus shot there, which is a little unfortunate, but you can see this rotting Leviathan starting to take some damage. Likewise, the Cav support just going to be kind of ping-ponging around, collapsing different targets that are tying down and killing my units. Nice Flaming Sword of Ruin going to be dropped in that center pocket there. Likewise, Zombie Summon for Chosen of the Norns. You can see a lot of his light mobile units are pretty much gone already, which is one of the main advantages of that Vanguard situation. Likewise, these depth guard, because of their low model count getting exposed like this, especially on a beautiful downhill charge. Remember, charging downhill does give you a damage increase on your charge bonus. I don't remember exactly the values, but regardless, those depth guard feel the pain of it. You can see a burning head was unleashed on the top of the hill by me. I do end up friendly firing, quite literally, quite a few of my huntsmen, breaking one unit, in fact, which is a little bit unfortunate, but we killed 2 units of zombies, did quite a bit of damage to these depth guard as well, and they get the hammer charge now, as we're trying to keep these crabs bogged up in the middle of this giant concave of shooting. You can see the pistoliers on the low ground a little bit late, but it's better late than never. They're going to be sent to deal with those halberds and the mortar down there in the foreground. But we're going to keep it in cinematic because this is a beautiful, beautiful shot. Great map for this kind of cinematic situation here. We're going to get both of the crabs on this net here. Pretty good stuff. And yeah, we're doing quite a bit of damage here. Unfortunately, again, the armor of those crabs is very heavy, and the huntsmen have decent AP values, especially with that bonus versus large when you factor that in, but still, they're not super accurate like handgunners, and the lack of AP is going to be a little bit of a tough situation here. We will struggle somewhat to take them out in the late game, but we'll see. We've got these deckhand mobs fighting now, not necessarily fighting, but chasing, getting blasted by pistoliers. Pistoliers are 500, these deckhand mobs are 400, so even if I just take out this one unit with the pistoliers, that's almost paying for themselves. Then I can then get on the mortar, disrupt that as well, but let's stay danger close. The Free Company running up the hill, still popping off pistols as they run, which is just awesome. I love that about them now. Empire Cavalry also staying close, and you can see another horrible swing and a miss from Marcus there. I actually think I only made contact with one of his actual aimed abilities here, but nonetheless, he does still have his bow, and you can see how it's flying off kind of into the nether there. I do have him currently on fire at will, and I'm not, unfortunately, not doing a great job of keeping his targeting up on important targets. Regardless, he's kind of having a hard time making contact because of the arc of fire anyway, but when he does make good contact, he can do pretty consistent damage, and even just he himself could probably take out these 2 rotting leviathans. It's tough to say, but looks like we're going to have another summon potentially, or heal. Nope, fireball. Does a little bit of damage. Of course, the heavy armor of those leviathans there will keep them from being too badly hurt, but we're just going to go ahead and pull back now. Still got quite a few units with ammunition, and I want to make sure we keep this concave situation as much as possible, so to be firing from all sides. And yeah, the halberds pulled back to keep defending the border. We've done a lot of damage, but still, that mortar has done a lot of damage, likewise to my build as well. If we have a look here at the kill totals, if I can get it, yeah, 91 kills with some chevrons on that mortar has been really, really devastating to my skirmish corps. That being said, we're finally starting to get a good focus on one of these rotting leviathans here. Getting pretty low and also getting pretty close to its healing cap. Noctilus has just been tossing out those invocations constantly. And nice fireball right over the lip there. Gonna come in and do hopefully enough to start this thing crumbling. Maybe, not quite. Free Company getting terrified away. And yeah, just all of the missiles, all of the small arms fire being unleashed. You know, it's funny, sometimes you prepare for a shootout and you end up with crab kebabs, but as it is, one crab just about to go down starts crumbling below 1,000 HP, so that one's pretty much done for. And we will be fast forwarding through some of the late game here, but I still wanted to highlight over here the pistoliers, of course, doing their final work, charging, and then retreating, and then charging again, doing some shooting, just running around, generally being a massive nuisance. These halberds and the mortars here, and then we're going to send some of these other cavalry down to finish off the mortar crew there as well. Bombardment from Noctilus, probably going to finish off one of those Free Company units. Yep. There's like, what, 15 of them left, so we'll see. Mortar's still online for the time being, but finally the Zintler's Reichsguard able to get there, bring home a charge, and silence them for good. With that, I'm in a pretty commanding position, although it would seem a little bit tough. I'm potentially not going to have enough ammo to take out the Rotting Leviathan, and it's just now that I take Marcus off fire at will, which honestly, had he conserved his ammo a little bit better, this late game situation would be nearly as hard, but since we have quite a bit to get through today, and this endgame takes a really long time, even in fast forward, we're just going to get to that part of it. You can see Chosen of the Norns does exactly what he should, chasing off as many units as he can with his limited numbers, but unfortunately for him, my free company actually route back towards my army. That is going to allow Marcus to then start coming in and plinking away. We got the fireball to start plinking away as well. A handful of units still with a little bit of ammunition here can come in, and you can see the huntsmen that are out of ammo are going to be used in melee to try and just keep this Rotting Leviathan tied down. Make sure, of course, that I'm fulfilling the attacking rule as well, and give my opponent some way to fulfill the attacking rule that he then can't really disengage legally. So yeah, that's more or less the plan here, is just to try and wear down the crab over time, and you can see we're able to do that eventually. It does take quite some time, and literally the last of my ammo here. So that means we're basically going to have to force a rear charge situation with those Reiksguard. The Bright Wizard comes in, forces crumbling, and that's going to be it for the crab. Wow, 2 giant enemy crabs, very difficult to take down, and now it's just a matter of grinding Noctilus. We have a look here at the stats. I mean, Marcus Wolfhart's what, 58-45 in terms of stats. I'm gonna have a hard time getting Nocti Boy's unit card to stay here, but if we have a look, I can get the Huntsman's card out of the way. Nope. Alright, Nocti Boy, let's see, 60 melee defense, 45, so the attack being so low means that he's not going to make great contact on Marcus. He's not going to make very consistent contact, I should say. The armor-piercing anti-large obviously doesn't really apply here either, being that Marcus is a relatively light target. 58 attack on Marcus is enough to get not necessarily consistent hits against Noctilus, but he has more or less the same chance to hit Noctilus as he does to be hit by Noctilus here, so it's actually not that bad of an engagement for Marcus to take in melee, especially with his Huntsman supporting here, getting constant little pokes in the back, and also distracting Noctilus's attack animations. Likewise, you can see I'm cycle charging with my Bright Wizard. He's got a little bit of a charge bonus, 30 charge bonus, up on that horse there, so he can take advantage of that as well. But it does take a long time. You can see we were pretty much down to just a crab and Noctilus at like minute 7 there, and 11 minutes later still fighting, but that's just Nocti Boy for you. We eventually take home the win, so well played there to Chosen of the Norns. Very fun and different build. I really like that double crab rush. Very unexpected for a lot of people, since, you know, often the Vampire Coast is seen as a primarily shooting faction, but I actually am a big fan of rush-oriented builds, especially one like this. You can definitely catch your opponent off guard, but I guess he was caught more off guard maybe by my mass Vanguard here. Great kills on the Bright Wizard, just from the one burning head, honestly, and then slinging fireballs all day. The Cav, all 3, great job taking out. I mean, there are only 2 units of depth guard, but still, those 2 units of depth guard, rear charging tons of zombies, helping to take out the hounds as well. They were all very key. And of course, the massive missile line was just enough to take out the 2 giant enemy crabs, who themselves racked up a boatload of kills, pun intended, 147 and 79, 92 for Nocti Boy himself, just hard grinding all day. The depth guard ended up being a little bit cost inefficient here. They got good numbers of kills, it would appear, but when you think about their cost and the fact that they're mostly just cutting through like free company, really not super cost efficient. The mortar, on the other hand, was very cost efficient. 95 kills. I want to say it started with a couple chevrons, maybe 1 or 2, but was able to gain quite a few more over the course of the battle. So very well played, Chosen of the Norns. And yeah, without further ado, let's get to the next battle. For Game 3 against my good friend Hadris, we're going against the nasty Dark Elves. Holkmar the Grim back, going to be leading the way, so let's take a look here. I've got him plus 2 Knights of the Blazing Sun, a line of Veteran Spears, once more, Sigmar's Sons, and we've got 3 Pistoliers. Hidden in the woods is a unit of Demigryph Knights with a Fire Priest. He's got Banner of Eternal Flame, Hammer of Sigmar, and Shield of Faith. For Hadra's build here, he's got Malekith up in the air, Dark Riders with repeated crossbows. We're going to pause, actually, for just a moment as we go over the rest of his build here. More Dark Riders out in the periphery, Slaanesha's Harvesters, Cold One Knights, and yeah, some Dread Spears, some other infantry kind of hidden here in the woods. I just quickly wanted to pause to talk a little bit about the meta, not necessarily meta, but kind of overall strategy of what's about to happen here. So because of the way that Hadris is deployed, I can see in the open field here that there's all of these cavalry units, not necessarily unsupported. They're supporting each other, right? But then I can also see, starting to emerge from the woods here, there's a handful of infantry units that are quite far away. And watch as we maneuver here. I'm going to very explicitly put my entire infantry force in between these cavalry and these infantry right here. Simultaneously, I'm sweeping these 2 units of Knights of the Blazing Sun up and across the formation to just charge these guys straight in the face, basically, with Volkmar, to try and break them as quickly as possible. And due to a small positioning error in that Hadris made here, and I would say it's a relatively minor error, it's going to get punished pretty badly here. Gaze of Malice comes in, does a good amount of damage, and you can see he's continuing to maneuver, which, you know, sometimes going for that full surround is a very good idea, but it's going to leave him exposed here now. He tries to come in and countercharge with the Cold One Knights, but they then get sandwiched between 2 Knights of the Blazing Sun here, as Volkmar also comes in, drops his buffs, also drops a beautiful banishment, which the RNG plays very well in my favor. Doesn't hit too many of those Knights of the Blazing Sun there. Likewise, they have magic resistance anyway, so it's not the biggest issue for them. But yeah, you can see a couple of units just got straight up melted there. Those Cold One Knights shattered immediately. A very nice Soul Stealer coming in though, massive effect. Granted, the Grand Shield of Faith will help mitigate some of that damage. And of course, these Knights of the Blazing Sun do have magic resistance. So if we actually think about this, they're almost 50% resistant to that Soul Stealer damage during this effect. Likewise, then the Warrior Priest can come in, drop his effect almost simultaneously, right? So they're up to like 44% damage resistance. So basically that Soul Stealer did very little damage as compared to what it could normally do. That second unit of Cold One Knights that came in to try and support just gets absolutely melted as well. The Demigryph Knights with lances come in, they get their buffs, and I mean, Malekith gets punished pretty badly. We just form up a little bit of a defensive formation with the spears to try and protect, since this pitched engagement here was so important. But, I mean, 2 minutes in, and I'm not going to say that I've won this game. Certainly Hadris is a very good player and has the capacity to come back and win this if I just completely play like crap. But at the same time, I'm in a pretty commanding lead here. We're going to drop a Burning Head here from the hidden Bright Wizard coming through, and I should mention, on specifically on those Demigryph Knights, we threw Cascading Fire Cloak right on that initial engagement there when all of those buffs were popping off. Of course, that procs Kindle Flame, and because the Warrior Priest gives that fire damage, you know, everything here, including even the Spearmen with shields, will have fire damage, and that massive Kindle Flame proc is just so powerful. I honestly... yeah, the Warrior Priest, the Fire Warrior Priest is something that I haven't been using a ton of lately, but it is something that's one of the most powerful tools in the Empire roster, I think, honestly, especially with supporting with Demigryph Knights. You can give them such a massive damage spike, you know, because, of course, Cascading Fire Cloak literally gives more armor-piercing damage in melee defense, which is fantastic for Demigryph Knights. You get the Hammer of Sigmar, Shield of Faith for additional attack and defensive buffs, and the fire damage for that sweet 22% raw damage increase from Kindle Flame. And it's just so powerful, so powerful. I really wish, to be honest, that Banner of Eternal Flame was on more factions. Like, I wish more factions had access to that item, because it's such a good item, and it's really cool in that you have to use it right, and you have to time your Kindle Flames very well. It's very much kind of a skill-based thing. And it doesn't have that big of an area of effect either. It's a relatively small, I mean, 40 meters is pretty good, I guess. But still, that area of effect, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about there. That Kindle Flame gets popped from the Cascading Fire Cloak there, and the damage spike from the Demigryph Knights can be pretty real. Unfortunately, I don't know if they even made contact while that Kindle Flame was up, but they lanced a few of those Cold One Knights down regardless. Volkmar going to be going out into the open field to try and clean up what's left of the Dark Elf Light Cavalry. I mean, Dark Elf leadership will make this fight just about 5 minutes long, but yeah. Well played to Hadris, and I mean, him and I go back and forth and trade games relatively frequently. He's a very good player. Unfortunately, just got a little bit rolled this time around. I mean, it happens to me. Spoiler alert, it's about to happen to me. But... yeah, sometimes the games just go a certain way, right? And from a builds perspective, I would say Corsairs are not a terrible pick here, but I'm not the biggest fan of them. I think you just go with a wider line of Dread Spears and then try and maybe invest more. I don't know. This is one matchup where there's a lot of back and forth, and the Dark Elves, because they're such a well-balanced faction, they can do a lot of different things. They can try and do a lot of different things. The Empire, a lot of people think that this is one of the tougher matchups for them, but I actually think that Volkmar makes this matchup really tough. He's actually really hard for the Dark Elves to kill, unless you make a pretty major mistake with him. If you have the right supporting units to make sure you don't get killed by, like, Malekith, for example, then Volkmar is... he's the win condition, basically. Like, he will win you the game, more or less. Likewise, even just one good charge with those Knights of the Blazing Sun, you can see multiple XP Chevrons to go around there, XP Chevron on the Demigryph Knights as well. Just that one really nice engagement there at the beginning of Volkmar, I would say, was really the deciding factor. A little bit of a tough day for Hadriz, but 52 kills on the Celestial Harvesters was... pretty good. I mean, his cavalry play out in the periphery was decent with these Dark Riders and so on, but you can see my Pistoliers. I mean, they were there. They got killed. They got some kills, but really obviously the main engagement was that big initial charge there. But well played to Hadriz. I've got one more game to show you guys from the final, so yeah, let's get to it. And in the final, I had to face off against Felcon's Lizardmen, which is a terrifying prospect, but there you go. This is actually Game 2. In Game 1, I out-memed myself super hard and took an absolutely terrible build. You can go watch Turin's stream VOD if you really want to see it in all of its atrocious glory. This time I've taken a little bit of a better build, but Felcon, sort of understanding that this is probably the build I was going to go for, has gone for a really cool counter. He's got Tic-Tac-Toe up in the air, Ripperdactyls, ROR Pterodons with another Pterodon. I'm going to throw my 3 Pistoliers over there. I've got 2 Demigryph Knights. Got Sigmar's Sons, Spearmen with shields, and you can see Carl immediately going to be going forward and trying to land on the ground to stay away from this Air Force. There's a Dread Saurian on the ground, though, so I've got to be careful. Some Cold One Riders as well. A Skink Priest, Lore of Heaven, some more Skinks, and Cold One Riders scattered around there, so we'll see. The Pistoliers will do great damage to the Ripperdactyls and the Pterodon Riders. Unfortunately, this unit, I was trying to, keep force pathing it back to stay with the other Pistoliers, but it unfortunately drops its movement order there, and I make a pretty huge micro mistake in actually moving these guys over here. I had definitely not meant to do that, but, that's just how it goes. At the same time, though, Tic-Tac-Toe is going to get a little bit blasted as he flies over there. But meanwhile, Franz drops down. We're able to do a ton of damage to these Cold One Riders. Franz is going to have to fight the Dread Saurian, which is not great. But he does have all of his buffs active, so it's not the worst situation in the world. Likewise, the Pterodons all come down. They rear charge the Demigryph Knights, which is going to do a lot of damage to them. Even though these are the anti-infantry variant of the Ripperdactyls, they still have great AP values, great melee attack and charge. So my Demigryph Knights are definitely getting punished pretty badly there. You can see I do throw a regrowth, it looks like, on one of the units of Demigryph Knights, or I'm going to attempt to, but they'll probably just get killed anyway. Let's see, they still have 21 unit models there, so they're going to attempt to continue to fight. Tic-Tac-Toe dives down, and he doesn't have a whole lot of HP, so just a handful of hits from Carl will deal with him relatively effectively, and I promise he's in there somewhere. But, yeah, if we just have a look at the health bars here, you can see Tic-Tac-Toe is getting chunked down pretty bad, and I'm also making a massive mistake right here. Gotrek's literally just, like, standing looking at the Dread Saurian, not fighting him, which is, yeah, pretty big mistake, obviously, by me. I mean, it is very much a bang-bang type play, just like the last game with myself versus Hadriz. These things tend to happen very, very quickly sometimes. So, yeah, it can be a little bit of a tough situation. You can see Franz is going to get taken out pretty quickly here by the Dread Saurian and the massive Pterodons, so, yeah, I do think that with the build I had, I actually could have won this if I had microed my Pistoliers better and not just YOLO'd them into that blob of Lizardmen over there. If I actually had used them to screen effectively against these Ripperdactyls and the Pterodons, we could have shot them to pieces. Likewise, Gotrek needed to be fighting this Dread Saurian the entire time. Maybe if I had pulled my Demigryph Knights out and not let them get charged by Ripperdactyls, we would have had a chance. It still was going to be tough. And credit to Felcon for playing very well there, but despite the fact this game is literally over in about 3 minutes, I still think I actually had a pretty decent chance of winning. You know, even I wouldn't say this build is ideal for taking on what Falcon brought by any means, and in fact what he brought is actually a pretty good counter to Karl Franz, which is of course one of the main dangers to the Lizardmen. So credit to him for bringing a very nice kind of niche build. Tic-tac-toe, it's not someone you see super often. He did get pounded here, but I mean he's still alive, and his Rippers are going to be able to chase Karl off here, so unfortunately, the Lizardmen prevail this day, but hey, at least it's the forces of order and not some filthy undead or chaos or something like that, so that's always nice. Karl goes down there, and that'll be game. So a big thanks to Turd for having me. I had a ton of fun playing the Empire. Some wild builds on all sides. And yeah, honestly, I don't mind losing too much to Falcon. He's a very, very good player playing one of his best factions, and it's just fun. It was a really fun time. So thanks again to all of you who came and watched and supported while the live stream was going. If you haven't watched it, be sure to go back and grab the live commentary as well. Thank you all for watching this video also. Hopefully you enjoyed my commentary and take on things. Yeah, like I said, had a ton of fun. Big thanks again, so hopefully I get invited back to do another faction war. I'd honestly be down to represent like maybe Bretonnia or even like Greenskins or pretty much any faction, to be honest, except for Elves. not the most experienced or competent player when it comes to playing Elves. I will fully admit that. Mostly because Elves are silly. So with that, I'll end. Thank you very much for watching. If you want more of this type of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.